All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Geopolitical Trends, where truth matters. Excited to be with you as always. Hope you had a relaxing weekend and you just chill out a little bit for you to wait for the start a new week. So, anyway, very excited to be with you. As I mentioned, I got an interesting topic for you. This is something I've been watching, I've been reading about, and so forth. And this is what I'm going to be providing you my own analysis about. And this has to do with the upcoming summit in Switzerland about the Ukraine Russia conflict. So, before I'll do this, let me say hi to some of you guys. Hagwan, good to see you as always. Ingenio, hi, how are you? So, Arthur Lincoln, good to see you. Liutek, good to see you. Antwango, good to see you. Inspector R, I agree with you. I won't use that terminology there, but I agree with you. you know, Mythbuster, good to see you. Edward Eve, Noel, Truth Seeker, Victor. Gulam Abbas, good to see you, and thank you very much for becoming a YouTube member. Truly appreciate your support, man. Bank to see. Who else? Let me just scroll. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce this in. Can anybody help me out here with the name? And thank you for becoming a channel member. Truly appreciate it. Locio Delgado, good to see you. Hamed City, as always. Go Choi Hoi. Willie Holman, Truth Seeker, Laval, good to see you all. All right, let's get into this, guys, because there is a lot to cover. A lot. I've been spending time yesterday, even though it's Sunday, whatever. But to me, it's a responsibility when you count on me to share information with you, and I have to make sure. First of all, the information is accurate. Second, is it is up to date. So this is what I'm gonna be sharing with you. Before I'll do this, I want to just to let you know about for those. Let me just adjust the camera here. There we go. For those who might not have seen the comments from Dr. Yang, she sent a comment and she wrote, and I quote, "Want to share with you all." She said, "Thank you all for your warm reception of my conversation with David. Some of your comments are very thought-provoking, and thank you for sharing them here. I look forward to future exchanges." End of quote. Yeah, she was kind and gracious enough to, she really was impressed with the community, the type of questions they've been asked there in the comments. She read some comments, she answered some comments because I looked and I read. So I want to also to take this opportunity to say thank you to you guys. For this is a reflection on all of us. It's not just we are a community. So this is for the whole community at large. So I also hope you enjoyed the conversation with Carl Za, as always. I consider Carl a friend. So usually it's not a term that I use very loosely. So I consider him friend, and I was very grateful for him to carve out time for us to learn. So, all right, let's get into our topic. Well, China now refuses, and I use the term refuses. It's not a declining. There is a big difference, guys. And like I always say, in international relations, context matters. It was for a reason why China used the term refuses to attend the Ukraine Global Summit. By the way, a global summit for what? We all know it's a farce. We all know it ain't going to amount to anything. It's because the West cannot be trusted. And I'll say it straightforward. Because what they are not willing to accept is that when China introduced the 12-point peace plan, it was rejected from the get-go by the US. So what makes them think that China's going to now agree? We're not even getting to the nitty-gritty of it, that Russia was not invited. So how can you have a peace summit without inviting the other party? And this is what I'm going to get into, providing you my own analysis. And that's why I use the term China refuses, so officially refuses to attend this upcoming so-called summit. So the questions we need to ask, and I have the questions for you here, guys, because we need to think in terms of questions here. So first of all, why did China refuse to attend? Okay. Now, some of you might think, oh, it just has to do with Russia. Yeah, but there is more into it. So second question, does the summit hold or will hold any credibility? Because remember, here is what a lot of people do not know. You have to put things in the context. What's coming up in about a month from now in the US is NATO summit. So this one to me is a preview of what's coming in July right here in Washington about NATO summit. So that's why. What credibility does it have? Or, as I used the term in the question, legitimacy. Does it something like this have legitimacy when you consider, first of all, Ukraine? Are we going to really take Ukraine at a face value for what it says? You know, how corrupted that system is. And even for the comedian Z himself saying that we are a democratic. Well, if you are a democratic, how come you canceled elections? It's because Ukrainians, and I've read from there, Ukrainians themselves now, they don't want this Zelensky anymore. People are fed up inside Ukraine. So if calling for democracy, what democracy? It's a hype. So it becomes a question of legitimacy. Does this summit have any legitimacy? Which I don't think it does. Third question is, what message, by having China refusing to attend, what message or signal China is sending to the US and collective West? Because remember, put this within the context of what's taking place in Asia. And one of you guys, I forgot, I'm sorry, because there are so many, I forget the name, shared with us here that the US aircraft carrier is pre-positioning itself in the South China Sea. Makes me just wonder. So you put all this within the context of what is taking place. So, oh yeah, it was a Silent Hermit 9. He's the one who shared this. David, did you know? And I'm quoting, did you know what is viral in TikTok? We're not hearing about it here. I didn't know about it here. You know, I admit it. So I'm very grateful for Silent Hermit 9 to share this with us. He said viral in TikTok at the moment in China. Apparently, there is a live stream on USS Ronald Reagan position in South China Sea. So, and this is, again, to tie this to the question, what message is China sending? And that's a legitimate one to ask. So far, and here is the thing. By the way, I read the articles here in the West, which they are lying about the numbers. They're saying more than 160 delegations were invited, okay, including members of G7, G20, BRICS, the Vatican, the European Union, the Council of Europe, and the OSCE, which stands for Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. That was, and by the way, this 160, we gotta give credit. We gotta be fair in the analysis here and the reporting of it. So that was when the comedians made the request, which was back in, I think, a few months ago. Now today, Western media, and I have the link, and I'm gonna put all this for you. They said by the end of May, which is only a few days ago. I'm going to drop this stuff here. By the end of the month, they said about 90 countries from Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, and Cape Verde to India and Western Europe had confirmed their participation. So what they're saying is 90. I just checked it this morning, which was a lie, because this one was published on June 2nd, which was only yesterday. I found out that only 50 confirmed. So we go from 90, we go from 160 to 90. Now it's 50. So confirmed their participation. And and listen to who already confirmed. And tell me, guys, because I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to say the names and tell me what they all have in common. Okay? So listen carefully. So confirmed their participation, meaning will be represented at the highest level. Okay, leaders such as French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, and others. They all confirmed. What they all share in common? If you will be kind and put in the chat box what they all have in common. And I like to Quad. That's one. That's one. Western allies. That's correct. And I would call them vassal states. So, oh, you got it. You got. Hold on. You got it. Puppets. That's what it is. So good point to that. And this is where the idea of we have to put all this within the context of why China, I say China collectively. And by the way, this picture that was from the G20 summit that took place in Japan. So to me, I don't care. I just use picture to convey my message here of President Xi back then. So the idea that actually, hold on, let me do one thing here. Let me jump to geography and a little bit of history about Switzerland, because you need to know, because Switzerland now is done for as far as neutrality. Switzerland cannot be trusted anymore, has not been trusted since they embarked on sanctioning Russia. Because, and I'm going to share that with you as far as where all this can come from. So, all right, let's talk about geography, and let me share the screen with you. Share screen. Here we go. And I give credit to World Atlas for this one here. So this is Switzerland. It's worth knowing a little bit of geography and history about it. Excuse me. Switzerland is a landlocked. I had a chance to be familiar with the country, and very small. It's not that big country. So Switzerland is a landlocked, mountainous country in Western and Central Europe. It is located both in the northern and eastern hemisphere of the earth. Switzerland is bordered by 5 countries. Yeah, this might shock you about one particular country. By Germany in the north, Italy in the south, Austria and Liechtenstein in the east, and France in the west. The country that I'm referring to here, you don't hear much about it, is Liechtenstein. I remember I had a student when I was teaching the graduate program for international relations, and I had a student from Liechtenstein. His dad, I think, was in some high-ranking government stuff, whatever that was. So it was very, very interesting. So, and Switzerland is a sort of really a doubly landlocked country, and it is a majority of the people speak German over there. So it is a combination of Germans. There's also some French there, and it is a sort of micro state, if I may use the term, located in the Alps between Austria and Switzerland. So it's very, very important to understand. If you, I'm scrolling down here. If you notice, this is the Alps. This is the Italy. That's part of the border with it. This is Geneva, which is the capital. Lausanne is another big city. Bern is the capital, not Geneva. I'm sorry. Bern is the capital. And Lucerne is where the meeting is going to be held. This Ukraine conflict, Ukraine summit, whatever. Zurich is another big city in the country over there. So now, historically, if you think about Switzerland, a lot of people do not know because its history was, how should I put it? Because Switzerland over the centuries, that's how it developed from various alliances of towns and rural areas into what it is today, which is a federal state. And Switzerland, throughout its history, has been consisting of 26 cantons. So it developed much like large parts of Western Europe, but was able to maintain its unique sort of characteristics. That's why in Switzerland they still have some aspects of it. So the history of it stretches way back. I mean, you're gonna have to go back to by some record I found to 1848. That's how surprised, because I learned something I didn't know about Switzerland. So So let's go back to 1848. And I'm going to do this briefly here, guys, before I'll jump into my analysis about China's refusal to attend the peace summit. So 1848, this is where you saw, or when rather, you saw the creation of the Swiss federal state and the unique so-called democratic islands in the sea of monarchist Europe. Because remember how Europe used to be at that time. However, Switzerland as such already existed. So that is what was the difference. And you have to go even further back to 1291. This is how far back it goes. So Switzerland's history prior to becoming sort of a democratic state in 1848 is hardly known beyond its border. A lot of people do not know. All we know, at least for us in the West, what do we know about Switzerland? What comes to your mind when you hear Switzerland? If you will be kind and just type in a chat box, please. Anytime you hear Switzerland, what comes to your mind? So this is partially because it is largely developed along different lines and routes, or routes that is, than its neighbors. So the history of Switzerland can be divided into two major periods. And I'm going to provide you the link here from Swissinfo dot where I read and checked the information. So I'll provide you the link to that. As I said, two periods, before and after 1848. So apparently 1848 seems to be the key sort of historical mark by which Switzerland has transformed. Let me see your answer. Let me make this bigger first. There we go. Let me see your answer on the chat box to my question. Cheese fondue. That is true. That's one. Chocolate. That is good. That is true. Anytime I used to cross through Switzerland, I'll buy some chocolate for the office back then and all that stuff. Swiss cheese. That's correct. I'm talking about something else. Let me see. Besides chocolate and all that, I'm talking about banks. Okay, that's one. Clocks, of course, Swiss knife and all that. So I'm talking about banks, and I'm talking about its political standing as being very neutral. Well, I'm going to use the term in the past. It was neutral. Switzerland is no longer neutral. So that is what I wanted to ask you and share with you. So let's go back to the year when the loose confederacy of cantons or small states became a federal state. But when exactly did this confederation begin to take shape? Well, the period prior to the foundation of the federal state can be roughly divided into 5 development eras. This is why it's important to understand how countries came to be. And I'm going to go through this very, very briefly. The unprotected confederacy, this between 1200 and 1400. And this one, for a long time, in 1307, when the Austrian bailiffs were expelled from Switzerland, was considered at the time it all began. This is why this date can still be seen on the base of Wilhelm Tell monument in Altoldorf. That is, they have a monument there. That's why it reflects. However, the end of 19th century, the Swiss made a conscious decision to refer to the year 1291 as the start of the democratic process. So, of course, it was the political assassination of Tell, it's Tell, was just not suitable as a symbol for the new state. Fast forward to, I'm going to just take you further to 15th century. The regions in central Switzerland, as well as the canton of Bern, which historians often describe as Swiss Prussia, were at the core of the crystallization of the confederation. In other words, that's how it all started. As the cantons formed a defensive as well as an economic alliance, Switzerland expanded beyond German-speaking Europe. Once again, why is this important? I'm highlighting to you. They formed defensive which is sort of a military sense, but the key is economic alliance. Always fall back on the economy. So what happened after this? They conquered regions on the northern French-speaking shore of Lake Geneva and clashed with the Grand Duchy of Burgundy, or Duchy, that is, of Burgundy, under the leadership of Charles the Bold of Burgundy. It is similarly strived to become one of Europe's greatest power at that time. Fast forward to after 1515, which was the Reformation era, triggered permanent religious conflict in Switzerland, which culminated in two wars of Capo, 1529 and 1531, as well as the two wars of Welmergen, 1656 and 1712. This is very, very important to understand. And in between these two conflicts, a fifth war was waged, and this is when the Swiss Peasant War of 1653 was triggered by the end of the 30-year war, when Swiss farmers who were were in Germany with cereals suddenly went bankrupt. So then comes 1800. What's important about 1800 time, guys? Just think big picture in Europe. What was important about 1800s? In one word, you can describe it in one word. Let me see if you... Napoleon, you got it. Muslim revert, you got it. Napoleon, very straightforward. Napoleon. So the next stage of Swiss history is characterized by the introduction of a kind of external governance in Switzerland. Of course, the fate of the country was first determined by Napoleon and later by the European powers during the Congress of Vienna. This period is considered one of the most unpopular chapters in Swiss national history, because the Swiss do not like to admit that all necessary political and social reform were only introduced after French Revolution troops invaded in 1798. Very important to understand this period here. Of course, we have to talk about the 19th century, the slow civil war. This is where the Congress of Vienna was followed by a second permanent and slow civil war that lasted for about 20 years. In 1847, this war reached its peak with the so-called Sonderbund War against the Catholic Church. Because remember, at that time, Rome was dictating the terms. This is why, here is what I want you to get. This is why this upcoming summit in Switzerland, the Vatican is invited. Because you need to understand the role of the Vatican into all this. And it has been throughout history. You need to dig deeper into this. This war put an end to a series of local political conflicts between the Protestant liberals and Catholic Democrats. The Protestants, though, thought rather that the people should be enlightened and educated in the rational spirit of Protestant ethics, and that the creation of unified state was the utmost importance. Catholics believe that people should live as they wanted, and they should have the freedom to believe in their Catholic religion. They stress the importance of having sovereign cantons. In the end, the Protestant won the war and created a new Swiss federal state based on French human rights, German philosophy of rule of law, and English utilitarianism. Because if you know anything about history back then, you know that the Catholic Church was dictating the terms to France, to England, to Germany. So this is why, and again, I keep moving this camera here, guys, sorry. And this is why I need you to understand how the West ended up winning the Cold War, is because the Vatican gets involved. Jean Paul II. If you only know, I mean, he was a nice man, but what he did behind the scenes politically, a lot of people do not know. He pushed for the downfall of the Soviet Union. So it's because we got a deal with John Paul II. That's why the Vatican holds a sway into the global politics. This is why they are invited into the summit. So, and of course, 1848 marks the beginning of a new characterized by a high standard of living, and the rest is history, as you know. I'm going to put the link for you guys for you to see if you want to read it and all that, and we go from there. So, all right, let's get into our analysis here, because I found it fascinating that China took stand. Now, some will say, which I read, some characterize this as, oh, China is defending Russia. No, that's nonsense. That's a weak argument. It's not defending Russia. It's just standing by what's right. How can you conduct a summit without inviting the main party to it, which is Russia? So what kind of summit is going to be? It's going to be one-sided. So China, thinking about it in terms of its credibility, that's one. And second, why will they put themselves in a position like that? Because that will take them away from their credibility on the global stage. And I think it's a right call. And that's not, I think. It is the right call. Why would you want to go to a farce? That's a farce summit. And let alone who's calling on it. The comedian Z, which, by the way, he wasn't the comedian Z. I'm here to tell you, that guy can't move an inch without the approval of his masters. You know, this, I won't be surprised it was a push by the US behind the scenes. It's because they are noticing they can defeat the Russians. They will not defeat the Russians. On the other hand, I am looking at this upcoming peace summit in Switzerland as nothing but a preview of what's coming in July as far as NATO summit in Washington. Because here's the thing. What our president, to me, I don't feel comfortable calling him a president because he's not qualified for the position to begin with. Somebody just bought me a coffee. Thank you so much for buying me coffee. He's calling now for allowing weapons to be used, Western weapons that is, to be used in targeting inside Russia. We all know what it means. It looks like NATO and the West want a war with Russia so bad. But they're going to get beaten so bad, meaning the West, because Russia ain't going to bluff. Russia will retaliate. Once start hitting inside Russia, Russians that is, expect from the leaders to protect them. And it will be a great mistake if the Russian president will think about, well, maybe I need to negotiate with the... No, you're going to have to hit hard, because that's something the West understand. This is what I say always about what lies ahead in Asia. China at some point is going to have to hit hard. So, but that's a conversation for another day. So, by the way, here is a picture of where the summit is going to be held. This is in Lucerne. It's a hotel there, special hotel there. So that's where it's going to be. So the idea that now China made it clear and refusing to attend. In other words, China's not dragging this way. We'll think about it when you got countries now, they are debating the like of Saudi Arabia. I found out 4 countries. So Saudi Arabia mentioned that they're not interested. Hungary has not made a decision yet. Which other country? The 2 other I couldn't remember on top of my head. There are countries have not confirmed. But when you look at who's invited, Ivory Coast, India, Varde, countries that, sorry to say it, but won't matter. They won't matter, And this is where the idea of the justification from the Chinese make perfect sense. I read an article by Lori Cheng and Liz Lee. It was published on, I think the Reuters, if I kept it here and I'll share the link with you. And to me, they kind of cherry picking about the information. I mean, come on, guys. If you put an article out, put both sides of the argument and let us decide. You don't reach the conclusion for me. They are talking in the article about, well, China is refusing to attend because it does not meet expectations. Hold on a second. Why don't you come straight forward and say it's because Russia is not invited? It does not make any sense for us to attend if we are to work towards achieving a peace between the two main parties. So who are they going to be achieving a peace between? Ukraine and some invisible enemy? Come on. So, and the wording of the articles, and again, I'm not pointing fingers at the authors of the article, but cherry picking and manipulating here. Some of us know how to read articles. So, and this is one of the articles, by the way, I'm gonna react to, and I'll put the link for you moving forward. And this is exactly what the Chinese Foreign Ministry said. It doesn't meet our expectations, so we're not gonna attend. We're not gonna attend. It's straightforward. So now, even now, you got what just took place. And by the way, even the United States now, there is no confirmation that the incompetent president is going to attend. So who's going to end up going? Either Secretary of Defense or Secretary of State, which tells you right there. So when you have just Secretary, when you don't have the head of states, most delegations are debating now. And even hypothetically, this is just hypothetically, and I'm going to ask you a question, guys. Hypothetically, if China would have agreed to attend, who do you think they're going to send in? Is it President Xi is going to go himself or someone else? Let me know in the chat box, please, because I need you to be part of this conversation here. Hypothetically, if they were going, who do you think China will send? A foreign minister, Mr. Wang Yi, most likely. Wang Yi, yes, most likely. I will concur with you, Muslim Revert, because that's how I see it. President Xi, attending? No. Why? It doesn't make any sense. And by the way, for Switzerland, that is now organizing this, it was Switzerland, okay, on March and April, between March, April of 2023, adopted, listen to this, guys, adopted new measures against Russia as far as sanctions, following the recent sanctions adopted by the EU. So where is the neutrality of Switzerland? That's what I say. Switzerland is done for. If you tell me back in the 60s, it will be a different story. 70s, even up to the 80s. But now it's done. So even though the articles coming from the West, look what they're saying. It's saying while Bern is the capital of Switzerland, has traditionally avoided taking such measures in line with the long-standing tradition of neutrality in global affairs, the Swiss federal government moved forward against this particular stand. So, well, just FYI, historically speaking, just for you to know, the reason why Switzerland was taking this neutral stand, okay? Because this policy, you can call it neutral stand, neutral policy, whatever term you want to use, because it was one of the oldest for a modern nation today. Why? Because it goes back to 1815, Treaty of Paris. That's how far back it goes. So, and that's where it ushered in the end of Napoleon wars in Europe. This is why Switzerland decided to be neutral back then. I mean, even Swiss neutrality withstood the two most bloodiest war of the 20th century. What are they, guys? Yeah. What are the two most bloodiest wars of the 20th century? Let me see your answer. I like when I get engaged with you guys this way. Because World War II and World War I. That is correct. Hagwan. Muslim River. You guys got it. You got it. You got it. World War I and World War II. And the country, and guess what, guys? Didn't even join the UN. It was till 2002. That tells you right. But now it's done for. Switzerland is done. As a matter of fact, to me, Switzerland was done for this neutrality when back in the 80s. You know what Switzerland did, the government? Turned in the name of some bank account holders in Switzerland. You know how a lot of wealthy people give their money? I'll admit it. I looked for a bank account in Switzerland. I'm not a millionaire, okay? I had my own reasons for why I wanted to do this. And of course, I found out to open an account there, you have to have $10,000. But that's beside the point. So what the Swiss end up doing? They turned in the names to the U.S. Treasury Department. So where is the neutrality here? This is why, to me, Switzerland broke with this tradition. So now when Switzerland is seeking this broad base turnout from around the world, they ain't gonna get it. They are not going to get it because you in this case, the organizers, not inviting a party, Russia, which is the key to hold this conflict. You're not inviting Russia. So how can you have a peace conference when you are not hearing from both sides? That's one. Second, why the meeting will be held in a country that imposed sanctions on Russia? That's to me common sense. So, and to China, this falls so short from its own expectations, because what China would expect is that both parties, or how many parties were involved in a conflict, will attend. This is how you mediate a conflict. You can't have just one side, which became clear to us in the West, how one-sided the argument is. Heck, it was even for articles, or even here on this channel. If you say something against the narrative, they kind of sanction you, whatever the term you want to use. I mean, come on. And this is why the Chinese said, and I quote, the arrangements for the meeting still fall far short of China's requests and the general expectation. This is the key term, general expectations of the international community, making it difficult for China to participate. End of quote. This was quoted by the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Mao Ning, during the briefing for that. So now, what Western media is kind of limiting into all this is they are not openly disclosing the idea of what China has always said. They only provide one side the argument. And what China has always said, and I found a quote for it, China has always insisted, and I quote, China has always insisted that an international peace conference should be endorsed by both Russia and Ukraine with the equal participation of all parties, and that all peace proposals should be discussed in a fair and an equal manner. Otherwise, it will be difficult for it to play a substantive role in restoring peace. End of quote. Spot on. Spot on. Because the words are very measured and sending a signal, sending a message. Why should we attend? This is a joke. You are not inviting the main party to the conflict. And this is where way back when a conversation between, I know the picture is not clear here, guys, between Mr. Wang Yi, and that's the foreign minister of Ukraine at that time, Dmytro Kuleba. It was just nothing but a farce. So that's the way I look at it. So now here is what comes very problematic, in my opinion. You all know what had just happened in Singapore a few days ago. What happened in Singapore, guys? Does anybody know? I was aware of it, but I didn't want to talk about it. What just took place in Singapore? Let me see what you guys come up with. A major event. Let me help you out here. So the elections, no, not the, that's beside that one. Yeah, in Singapore. Why? What took place there, guys? Oh, Shangri-La dialogue. You got it. You got it, Hamad Sidi. You got it, Matt. Becky, you got it. The Shangri-La dialogue took place. I was aware of it. I didn't want to talk about it. You know why? I didn't want to talk about it because I know it's going to be nothing but another just waste of time. Especially now that the comedians, gloves are off. You know, he went ahead and attacked China now. So he went ahead and accused China, and I'll provide you the link where it was stated. Accused China of being, and get this, guys, an instrument of Russia's agenda to thwart Ukrainian diplomacy. What diplomacy Ukraine has anyway? So if this comedian Z wants to be talking about a democratic country, how come you cancel the elections? Let people vote, and people do not want a war with Russia. So where is this Ukraine diplomacy? What diplomacy that is? When the officials in Ukraine are squandering taxpayers' dollars from here, the US, from Europe. I mean, you all know how it is in Europe. To my viewers who live in Europe, I don't need to tell you. And for my American viewers here, you all know how it is. And we keep sending this money, wasted. I mean, I've seen images on TikTok. You won't see them here in mainstream. How the corrupted leaders in Ukraine, their family living in Monaco, in France, driving some expensive cars and all. Where that money came from? I mean, come on. So now, comedian Z is attacking China. Well, if you are to say, you, Z in this case, comedian Z, that China is being an instrument of Russia and giving it weapon, whatever, what does the West do? And what is the West is doing? We're doing even worse than that. Comedian Z went even as far as saying that the Chinese diplomats are also being used. Why? Because they want to disrupt the peace summit. That tells you when someone who, first of all, very ignorant about geopolitics, does not know how to articulate the global complex issues, those are matters of security, and third, is incompetent and unqualified to be speaking on behalf of a nation. This is the like of behavior you get. On the other hand, something like this is my own opinion. I bet you it was provided to him to state. So and here is the thing. He's saying that the Chinese have denied reports, whatever, and Zelensky, comedians, is saying there is intelligence that somehow, some way, elements of Russia weaponry came from China. Comedian Z added. So where is the intelligence? Show us. Where is the proof? Show us. And this is why it just doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. It is what will be very interesting. As you know now, most global South are siding with the US. What do you think of this? And I'm going to ask you a question, and please answer if you feel like it. Should China, now listen carefully, should China host an international conference about the Ukraine, or summit about the Ukraine or Russia conflict, and inviting both countries, Ukraine and Russia, and whomever else wants to come? What do you guys think? Let me see your answer. Let me repeat this. Should China, in your opinion, host an international peace summit about the Ukraine-Russia conflict, inviting both countries, Russia and Ukraine first, then the rest of the world, whomever wants to attend. Gordon, Gordon, you say yes. Carl Leon, you say yes. Hamad Sidi, yes. Almaz, Habibi, yes. Matt, Becky, the U.S. won't tolerate it. Well, the U.S. won't tolerate it. They don't have to attend. Who cares what the U.S. think anymore? You know, if they don't tolerate it, heck with it. Go take a hike. They don't need to attend. Susan Sierra, you said yes. Francis Tango, yes. Paul Motsima, yes. Barry, yes. Makes sense. In my opinion, makes sense. Let them organize a summit. And second thing is that during the Shangri-La dialogue, when Comedian Z said what he said about China, do you guys know what was the objective of that? The objective, in my own analysis, was to draw a wedge between Asian nations and China. Because where did Comedian Z went after the summit was concluded? Does anybody know? I have a picture, but I wanted to ask you first. Does anybody know where Comedian Z went after the conclusion of Shangri-La Dialogue Summit, Security Summit? Truth Seeker, you're right. And I have a picture right here. You know, out of all places going to Philippines. Why Philippines? Is the weak link. See, do you guys see the big picture? This is what I'm trying to get you into. All of a sudden, Comedian Z, gloves off, attacking China, taking a trip to Philippines. You know, didn't go to Indonesia, didn't go to Singapore, even though Comedian Z met with the Prabowo of Indonesia during the summit. You know, it's beside the point. The optics of it. Philippines is the weak link. I gotta just go to confirm that with all we want to move into that direction. That's my point. So, and this is what I want you to guys to understand as to where is the objective of why the statement during this Shangri-La dialogue attacking China. And if we are to argue, you know, here is my point, that the first article that I mentioned to you did not address in detail because, in my opinion, they did not want people to know the truth. And the truth is that China presented the 12-point plan for the peace. I had a chance to read it, okay? And I have a link, and I am going to share it with you. As a matter of fact, I am going to do it right now. I'll share the link with you, and you guys take a look at it later on. This is why I say Western media is kind of cherry picking the information. You can't do that. You provide both sides the argument and let people decide. So, and I'm not going to read it all because it's long. I'm going to just share the highlights of it or the subheadings of it. So here's a breakdown of the 12 points. 1, respecting the sovereignty of all countries. 2, abandoning the Cold War mentality. 3, ceasing hostilities. 4, resuming peace talks. 5, resolving the humanitarian crisis. 6, protecting civilians and prisoners of war. 7, keeping nuclear power plants safe. 8, reducing strategic risk. 9, facilitating grain export. 10, stopping unilateral sanctions. 11, keeping industrial supply chains stable. And 12, promoting post-conflict reconstruction. So, why all of a sudden the West, mainly the United States, rejected it from the get-go? It's because the key, if you look at, for example, and I'm going to just, number 1, respecting the sovereignty of all countries. China was hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. because that's the art of diplomacy. In international relations, context matters, and you always have to think in terms of strategic interest. You don't look at the end of your nose, as they say in French. Il faut jamais regarder le bout du nez. Look very far. China was looking far. On one hand, it will resolve the problem or the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. On the other, it sends the message to the West that all sovereignty has to be respected. This is within the context of Taiwan. So, and second one, abandonment of the Cold War mentality, because that is exactly what's taking place right now in Asia, with Japan's going to open up its country for NATO. That's what I'm saying. You have to see it from that perspective. And this is one of the key issues that I get frustrated sometimes. I get frustrated because when I read the article in the West, I see the manipulation. And I kind of don't like it. It's my nature. It's just how my personality is. Justice, fairness, right. There is a right, there is a wrong. There is nothing in between. Oh, I'm going to only do a little bit of right, but do wrong, or vice versa. There is no such thing. You either do right or do wrong. So the article, the first one, they did mention just China's 12 points. And you know what it says over there? It says, this is how we started, and I quote, Russia and China proclaimed a no-limit relationship just days before Moscow launched its invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. But Beijing has so far avoided providing actual weapon and ammunition for Russia war effort, end of quote. Where's the 12 points? What are you talking about? The no-limit relationship and all that. China wasn't talking about that in that 12-point plan. So, and this is where that manipulation is. This is where that manipulation is. Because right off the bat, we rejected it. So, and this is where also you got the weak states in Europe, Europeans repeatedly urging China to do more to curb exports of dual-use items and critical components to Russia. Well, wait a minute. Who the heck are you to dictate to me whom I do business with? They are sending their tanks. Germany was sending it. The US, we were sending them. We're sending weapons. We're sending whatever. We're sharing the intelligence. Did China come to the West and said, you need to stop sending that to Russia? We gotta be, I know. In international stuff, there is no fairness. It's strategic interest. But the lying, the misinformation, the truth, it's being chopped. The chipping at the truth, a little here and there, till there is nothing left. So, and this is why, even with the incompetent Secretary of State Blinken calling it, and I put in quote, the biggest threat to Europe's security since the end of the Cold War, end of quote. He tells you right there, they want to keep the Cold War mindset relevant. It's no different than what France is doing right now. France is sending troops to Ukraine. Why? France wants to stay relevant. Europe has no relevancy whatsoever. NATO has no relevancy whatsoever. It's a relic of the past. It's done for. And this Cold War mindset has to be abandoned. And that was exactly what the Chinese put in their 12 plan. This one wasn't about Europe. It was a hint about Asia. And the trip right here tells you where the comedian is going to meet another incompetent, Marcos Bong Bong is I respect him as a human being, and you all know these guys. That's different. You know what I'm talking about. As far as leadership, as far as the ability to govern and move a country forward, he doesn't have it. They don't have it. So, and this is where you see this kind of direction where things are headed. And for Switzerland now to say, well, we are seeking to persuade more global South countries as well as China to attend the conference. I will say, go take a hike. Global South ain't going to that. Because we saw the vote at the UN, the entire Global South, the countries that's going to be attending, those the one under the thumb of the US. Those are what I call puppet. They couldn't take stand saying no, we're not going to attend, because they know, deep down they know, they ain't right. When you are not inviting the main party to the conflict, Russia, how can you call it a peace conference? So in Switzerland is done for. We all know this. And this is where it becomes the idea of, no. This nothing has to do with really where things are. And all this also has to do with where the fear about the Global South. And this one has to do with BRICS. This is what's important to understand. Remember, like I always say, guys, things are linked in geopolitics. There is no one single item that defines a particular course of action or policy. No. It's a combination of many. This is where the fear is also about the monetary aspects of it, where things are headed, especially when you think about China dumping U.S. debts. $53 billion, the last one I saw last week, and converting it right away into gold. Now, what they're going to do with the gold, it's their prerogative. They can decide whatever they want. But there is the much bigger picture. And when you take this into consideration, you can see why the China's 12-point plan was rejected from the get-go. The U.S., the Western world, collective West, is realizing there is no other alternative but to sit down and have a conversation with the Russians. Negotiations, if I may. And if they think that they're going to dictate the term to the Russians, they are mistaken. They, collective West and the U.S. U.S. also, because we come into presidential elections. And this is one of the reasons, possibility why Biden might not go. Well, he doesn't know day from night anyway. What will he go for? He's not going to know where he is at. Sorry, no offense to elderly. We're all going to get old one day. We all could fall into that. But the guy has no clue what's going on. You know, the reason why they wanted him to run again, because to maintain him in that position, because he running the... No entities are running. There are entities behind the scenes running Washington. So, now even our esteemed Congress, our corrupted Congress, is now going to invite Netanyahu to speak at Congress. The only leader that spoke 4 times in front of Congress. That tells you the story right there. So the bottom line, guys, before I summarize this, and I'm going to take some of your questions, the bottom line is that the summit, which to me, it is a farce anyway. What you're gonna be noticing is that the reporting about it, they're gonna put these grandiose words, engulf or hypes about how important this summit is. When in reality, is because you're gonna look at who is attending. So far, only 50 countries, and even those 50s, mark my word, you ain't gonna see the head of states. They're gonna send because it's coming from Ukraine. How can you trust Ukraine? It's very corrupted. And people now inside Ukraine, I saw some images, not from here, elsewhere. They're snatching people on the streets because they don't have any. And Russia's making advancements. So Biden is thinking in terms of the elections. He's got fundraising with some movie stars, which those are nothing but stupid, to us. And I'll say this to American audience, stop paying attention to those movie stars and all this nonsense. It's nothing but a distraction. They give a damn about what's going on to our country here. So this is what I say, and I wanted to do this for you guys to provide you this my own analysis, my own insights. Of course, you reach your own conclusions and put things together, and you come up with all this. Now there is one thing I believe I have, and I forgot because I'm gonna read up the. Oh yeah, I read the statement. Do you know the representatives during the Shangri-La dialogue, which is the security? Usually, that summit mainly is about the sale of weapons. That is what the summit is all about. So, comedian Z just I don't know. I don't even know why he was invited for that to begin with. But also, I can see the business aspects of it. Countries wants to sell weapons, so sell him more weapons. Because Uncle Sam is going to pay for it. Ukraine has no money to pay. So I took a look at the statements by some representatives there, and I was very surprised by not surprised in a good way, by Admiral Dong Jun. Do you guys know who that is? Admiral, I don't have. Let me see if I think I have a picture of him. Let me share screen with you if I do have. No, I don't have a picture of him. He's the admiral, the Chinese admiral. So, and I read the whole thing. It was one paragraph, I think, a second page or so. Second paragraph in second page said, and I quote: "China has always honored its statements with action. The Chinese military stands ready to work with other counterparts to pursue these measure initiatives in Asia Pacific to deliver," listen carefully here, "to deliver more benefit to our people. This is consistent with China defense policy and guidelines." End of quote. Why am I sharing this with you? I'm sharing it with you because of that particular word, our people. Which people is he talking about? Is he talking about Chinese people, or is he talking about people in Asia? Because what preceded that? It says to pursue these measure initiatives in Asia Pacific to deliver more benefits and so forth. Actually, let me copy the link and send it to you guys so you can take a look at it later on, should you decide to do so. It's worth your time to read if you want it, if you want to read it. And the okay, let me check one particular where is that one? Okay, I had one particular tweet here that I wanted to. I was laughing. I'm going to share it with you. I was laughing how hilarious that is. Here, take a look, guys. And this was sent to me by Cossack. Very, very hilarious. I mean, the stupidity of it. That's why I'm saying it's hilarious. Yeah, check this out. This is, you all know who that is, right? This one is the Australian defense minister. Okay? What is he saying? China will prosper if it helps stand against Russia. That's how stupid the leader. This is Australia Defense Minister Richard Marles is offering China the chance to prosper if China helps defeat Russia. It just to me that's the low level the Western collective West has reached. It's really pathetic. Really, really pathetic. How about this one? And this is on Twitter and if on X. If you guys follow me, I urge you just follow me on X. I'm at the Waralu. You can just follow me there. All right, let me share this quickly with you, and I'm going to take some of your questions, guys. Present, and let's see here. So this is just imagine this, and exactly what the person Olga, the one said. Imagine this, guys. what the Tony Blinken's going to do when he sees something like this. The Chinese army is ready to gather with the Russian army to defend justice in the world, Chinese defense minister said. Straightforward. Yeah. Let me see if there is one more, and that's it. I'm going to answer some of your questions, guys. Yeah. And of course, we are not hearing. To those who live in Europe, you guys please confirm this on the chat box. If the demonstrations that's taking place right now in London, and I have a picture here. If you will be kind and just confirm this one. This taking place in London. And of course, it's not being disclosed. All right, guys. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to answer some of your questions. It goes without saying that I want to say thank you to all the supporters. Thank you to those who became new members on YouTube channel. Please hit the like and subscribe. I know one of you put a comment as to why there are only a few views on this. I don't know. YouTube, man, you know how it is. I think viewers are smart enough to know the difference between a channel that is just, rumbling, if I may use the term, and one that has substance. That's like, it reminds me of when I used to teach. One thing I always learned about my students, they're smart enough to distinguish between someone who's gonna just BS them, bullshit them basically, and someone who is honest and straightforward. And I always sense this with my students. So same thing here. I don't know why. I do not know why, but please hit the like button and share this with your friends or whomever that is. And I'm very grateful for your continued support, guys, for the channel. Without you, there would be no channel. You all know how it is. All right, let me take some questions here. And I am going to, indeed, Hamed City. I will greatly appreciate it. Please hit the like button. To those who ask, will I bring Dr. Yang back? Yes, I will in due time. She's a busy lady, and I will reach out to her. Her and I will communicate, and I will reach out to her, and we'll just go from there. All right, let's take question from Rinaldo Lazaro. Question, Dr. O, if you are Putin winning the war, will you negotiate or dictate the terms of surrender? No, I won't dictate the term, but I will enter into negotiations in my term. In other words, I'm going to put the plan on the table. Here is what it is. Take it or leave it. Because I'm winning anyway. So you can either accept the term or we just drag this longer. I still have the upper hand anyway. Do you guys know that NATO and US will not dare to attack Russia? Or any country for that matter? I do know one thing for a fact, that Eastern European countries, the like of Lithuania, Slovenia, Latvia, Poland, they will be hit first. Finland and Sweden, there is the possibility there as well. They dug themselves in a hole the moment they joined NATO. You think about, I don't know what was the rationale for that, but again, is their country. So the answer is no. I'll tell them, here is what it is. If you like it, take it. If you don't, see it. We'll keep doing what we're doing because Russia has the upper hand. So, and this is one of the questions I'll ask also when Larry Johnson comes back here. He's busy right now, and I intend to circle back with him next week or the following week. All right, let me see another question. Much appreciate you, by the way, guys, for keeping the conversation very civil here, and I'm very grateful to you. Francis Tango, you said I can open it. Oh, you mean the link for? Okay, I'm gonna send another one. I put it in the description, and you guys can look it up that way. Hold on, let me do it right now while I have this one on. Oh, it goes directly to the. Okay. Yeah, when I'm done here, I'll go and sign up. I'll get the article. Then you go under Chinese Admiral, and you can upload it there or access it through there. So. Okay, let me see another question for you. And I was thinking about another topic to prepare for you, and I forgot what it was. So, oh yes, it came to mind. Do you guys know who's winning the elections in Mexico now? I see trouble on the horizon soon. So, yeah, most polls suggest she will be the first female president for Mexico. I ain't about that, about something else pertaining to her. Very, very concerning to me personally. Because given what we stated to Mexico, that we will invade if Mexico joined BRICS. Yeah, that's what the White House said, which was very, very troubling and problematic. All right, Patrick, Dr. O, do you think they are now authorizing strikes inside Russia to affect the upcoming BRICS summit? Not necessarily for the BRICS, but about ensuring the continuation of the narrative. Remember, the narrative is dying. The lies are being debunked now. And how do you do that? You have to keep the narrative going. Same thing with NATO. How will NATO keep its relevancy? Well, you and I know NATO is irrelevant. Has been irrelevant since the end of the Cold War. So, but fomenting, keeping the tensions, same thing with this. This is why I'm saying this so-called summit in Switzerland, it's nothing but a preview of what's going to be in NATO summit in the US. So, what's interesting is that Medvedev, you all know who Dmitry Medvedev, right? I read his statements that what he stated, the translated version, of course, I don't speak Russian. He stated that we will retaliate. I'm paraphrasing, by the way. We will retaliate no matter where the weapons is launched from. That's to me signal. And Russia has the capability of reaching anywhere in the world. You know, do you guys know that if England, UK wants to try to show itself as being the strong, which is nothing but hypes, did you know one Russian supersonic missile will hit London before even British dispatch their Rafale and all whatever jet planes they have and all that fighter jets there. That's how fast Russia can retaliate there. So the same thing, Medvedev saying they will retaliate against any, they will target. There is no, he was straightforward about it. Straightforward warning. Whatever that thing is launched from, they're going to target that. So who do you think, which country is going to allow the weapons to be? What they want is the weapon to be launched from within Ukraine. Well, anything within Ukraine is open to Russia. I'm talking about the likes of Poland. I'm talking the likes of Lithuania. I'm talking the likes of Germany, France. France now sending their troops. They're going to be coming back in body bags sooner or later. So, why? Because France wants to stay relevant. So this is where I see, but it's not on the BRICS. More what you see on the BRICS has to do with the sanctions, especially for the European banks. That's where you will see it, mainly on that. All right, I'll take one more question, and I'm going to sign off here. All right, I'm scrolling all the way down here. Interesting comment. Speaking the truth, Dr. Yan is pretty. Yeah, she is, and she's very smart. So there is always the beauty of not only physical, but a mental. That's very, very, very crucial, very important. A very smart lady, in my opinion. So, question: order out of peace. How likely a revolution in France and Spain, Malta, Italy taking the leadership in the EU? There is already now, not the way you and I know how this revolution is going to be, but what you are witnessing right now is that the far rights in Europe are taking over. And once they take over, in France even, the far right with the likes of Marine Le Pen. Well, Marine Le Pen first order of business is what? Pull France out of NATO. Charles de Gaulle did this back in the 60s or 70s, whatever that was. He pulled France out of NATO. I see her doing the same. As a matter of fact, France now, and I just saw a clip this morning from Paris, France now is giving citation to women who are dressed in head cover or wearing the Palestinian kifaya, that Palestinian kifaya they put, the shawl, whatever you call it. Yeah, France, le pays de la liberté, the country of liberty. It's nothing but hypes. That era is gone. The collective West is done for. The end is here. Martin, you put Larry is in Russia. Yeah, I'll wait for him till he comes back. That's the truth seeker question. Is it true U.S. nuclear weapons? You meant, I'm sure, are over 70 years old. Yeah, they're old. They're old. So, and this is why when the INF treaty, Russia said we're not renewing it. Of course, how can you trust the Americans? They went ahead and developed. As a matter of fact, I am aware of, just not aware of this specific, of course, because those are sensitive information. I have no way of getting that. They are working on a specific type of nuclear device of sort. So, but yeah, the U.S. is very old, and we will stand no chance against the Russians for what they have. Okay, Hamad Sidi, about the women. You said the lady, women, Mexico. Yeah, she's Jewish. So, oh, you got it. Rampoles 01, a Jewish first time. Because remember, there are two other leaders in Latin America of Jewish background. Yeah. So, I think I remember I had something that had this particular disclosure on it. Let me see if I can find it, but if not, we'll move on. Yeah, I didn't find it. Anyway, yeah, that's so I can only imagine now the policies of Mexico, what it will be like. And this is why when we threatened Mexico with invasion, which was ridiculous to even state, you can't say something like that. Mexico is a sovereign state. If they want to join BRICS, they join BRICS. If they want to do whatever they want to do. So that's why we said we will impose 100% tariffs, and we will sanction Mexico if they allow the Chinese EVs to go there. So, guys, I hope you find this very informative, and I look forward to seeing you next time. As always, remember, geopolitics impact your daily life, and more ways than one. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.